Deck. I'm Leah Guy, your host, otherwise known as a girl named Guy. And today on the deck we have Dr. Michael Wald telling us the truth about gluten. So there's a ton of things to talk about. This is one of the hottest topics out there.
Right.
But is gluten just a fad diet?
No, I don't think so. More and more people are coming to me and seeing other doctors, and they're finding that gluten is a real problem. It can cause all kinds of health problems, so I think it needs to be taken seriously.
It's like all of a sudden the last couple of years, you see more and more gluten-free products. Kind of like years ago when you'd see the Atkins diet or this kind of diet.
Different healthcare providers like myself that have been aware of gluten for the last, 25, 30 or so years, this is not new. So it may be new for the public, but there's a lot of science behind gluten being a problem.
So do you think overall, good or bad, gluten's good or bad?
I would have to say if I had to choose for everyone right now, I'd boot it out of the diet.
Really?
I honestly would. We've only been cultivating, wheat products or gluten for about 2,000 years or so, and in the course of all the millions of years that we've been developing genetically, we just don't deal with it in a friendly way, or at least a good amount of the population. It used to be 1 in 800 people had celiac disease. Now it's about 1 in 100 people with known celiac disease.
There's a difference, though, between people who have celiac and then people who are intolerant to gluten.
Yeah, there's a big difference. Celiac disease is an incurable form of gluten intolerance, which means once you identify that gluten is the trigger, you have to eliminate it, and that's it for the rest of your life. You can never add it back. For gluten allergy or intolerance, which pretty much mean the same thing, you can eliminate the gluten for a period of time, you can recover, and then you can introduce it back, and you should be good to go.
Do you eat gluten-free?
Almost always, but I don't really have the strong intolerance, but I'm aware of it because I know that gluten can become a problem over years. So even though you're feeling well now, it sometimes can create issues that are under the surface and just don't know until it's too late.
Or why are we all developing this kind of intolerance to gluten?
Well, intolerance to any food usually happens when you're eating the food too often. And that's really the issue here, because gluten is absolutely everywhere. It's very difficult to escape it. I almost said you can't escape it, but that's what we're going to talk about today, how to escape it.
Yeah, before long we're going to go through all the food groups and what people can eat and can't eat and shouldn't eat and should eat regarding gluten. But first of all, with celiac, I mean, that's as you said, it's a serious condition. How does somebody know if they have celiac or not?
Well, half the time someone with celiac disease will have just diarrhea that will not go away, and that brings them into the internist. The internist refers them to the gastroenterologist, the GI doc, and then they find it. Then they say remove it. They'll do an endoscopy. They look down in your small intestine, they take some biopsies, and that's it. And but most of the time, or about 50% of the time, a person does not have diarrhea. They might have chronic skin problems, they might have headaches or migraines or psoriasis or any number of health problems. You name it, gluten can affect any tissue whatsoever in the body.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, what about constipation? Could they have constipation?
Actually, yes. Not as common, but absolutely it could. And that's important to know because most GI doctors dismiss it when you say, oh, I'm constipated, and then you say, well, could it be gluten? And they're thinking celiac disease. But yes, constipation could be from gluten intolerance.
One of my biggest triggers, it was an emotional response. Like when I eat gluten, it makes me emotional. I don't know how to say it besides that.
I know you didn't imagine. I've heard that a lot. Gluten can cause chemicals to be produced in the brain called gluteomorphins. They're morphine-like molecules, and they can cause like brain fog and emotional stress, even depression. All sorts of mental emotional disturbances from gluten.
For someone like me that may be sensitive to it or allergic to it, and I'm kind of now scared of it, do I have to include it back in my diet once I've gone gluten-free?
Absolutely not. There are plenty of foods in the diet. And in fact, most people say to me, what would I eat if I don't have gluten? There are so many great things to eat that can completely manage your nutrition.
So one of our Facebook fans wanted to ask the question, if someone wanted to go gluten-free, how do they begin?
Right. Well, you begin by first knowing what the gluten grains are. And the main ones are barley, rye, oat, wheat, and spelt. And then you need to know how to, read a label to find those items. And then, of course, you need to know what the gluten-free grains are as well.
Yeah, and again, we're going to go through all those details here in just a minute. But even with the oats, some people come out with gluten-free oats.
Yes.
Now, are those allowable?
Well, they might be. See, the problem with oats is that they generally don't have the type of gluten in them that would cause reactions in the celiac patient. Okay. But there is a type of gluten that is similar. It's a protein, very similar to the bad gluten. So even though it could be gluten-free, someone might still respond badly to having oats.
Do you think going gluten-free is a good thing to do if someone just wants to lose weight?
Well, nothing's guaranteed. And in and of itself, I don't think so. You need to look at your whole diet. So if you're going to eliminate gluten, you want to increase your non-gluten proteins, because protein helps you maintain your lean body tissue, which helps you burn fat. And you want to watch the types of fats and all the other things that we're all familiar with hearing in terms of weight loss. So if you expect some dramatic weight loss by just removing gluten, it probably won't happen.
Okay, Dr. Wald. Oh, it's chilly out here.
Oh, it is, yes, definitely.
Brisk. All right, we have another Facebook question. What is the negative effect of gluten for a diabetic? And is gluten really bad, or is it that bad for diabetes?
Well, gluten might be bad for a diabetic, and you know, because if you eliminate gluten and your blood sugar evens out, then you know it's something that's, just a problem for your body to handle. But there are a bunch of diabetics that when they remove gluten, they're shocked to see how much less insulin they have to use and how much less attention they have to pay to other areas of their diet.
Celiac people need not have gluten ever again for the rest of their life.
Ever.
But if someone is sensitive, allergic, or intolerant to gluten, and they want to get over this problem, how exactly do they do that?
Well, you eliminate the gluten for a period of time, and sometimes...
How long?
It varies, but I'd probably say at least 6 or 8 weeks or so to clear most of it out of your system.
Wow.
And then you can add just a little bit back in, but you want to do that with the help of a trained healthcare professional, because if you have an adverse reaction that's stimulated by that, you're going to need support.
Is it worth it, though, just to kind of go gluten-free? Like, just to go gluten-free on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but on Tuesday and Thursday, eat whatever you want?
I would say absolutely not.
That's just going to confuse your body, right?
There's no evidence. I have not seen anything clinically that tells us that if you just reduce it, it has any health benefit.
So it's not like sugar. It's not like you can just lower your sugar and you have less of a response.
Exactly. That's a great example.
Well, one of the reasons that I continue to be on a gluten-free diet is because I have Hashimoto's, or thyroid issue. I've learned that gluten makes those issues worse.
Not only that, there's actually evidence that gluten might actually cause the autoimmune thyroid problem Hashimoto's.
Really?
So that's any person who comes in that is known to have Hashimoto's, I check for gluten.
Okay, so in that case, if I'm not celiac, and I don't know if I'm intolerant or allergic or whatever, but it's causing the Hashimoto's,
Yep.
would I be a person that needs to stay off of gluten always?
In that case, yes. You might find that eliminating gluten actually brings your thyroid a bit back. But that's one example of a number of different health problems, a lot of them involving the immune system, that are triggered by gluten, and they're just not celiac disease. And that's where people get lost in this whole gluten issue by going to traditional doctors who are just going to look for celiac disease.
I see. So the gluten could still be affecting your health, but it's not showing up as celiac.
That's right. Alzheimer's disease, multiple sclerosis, Sjogren's, which is an autoimmune problem. The list goes on and on of all kinds of health issues that could have their cause in malabsorption in the gut from gluten.
So check out our next segment where you'll learn everything you need to know about what foods you can and cannot eat for a gluten-free diet, and which you should avoid, and the secret ingredients that will just blow your mind. They're in some of these gluten-containing foods. If you want more information, you can follow Dr. Michael Wald on Facebook, or Blood Detective on Facebook, or find his website, or you can follow us at A Girl Named Guy on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Thanks so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Okay.